This is the plastic pollution social problem PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to start with where plastic comes from. It comes from crude oil refinery. We also make plastic because we make a lot of different things out of it. But every time we refine crude oil, we receive plastic as a byproduct. So it's best that we put this plastic to use instead of just throwing it out. It's what works best for the oil refinery process. So plastic is not biodegradable. It's pretty obvious. I think we all know that, and it's really detrimental to the environment because it's not biodegradable. Through the oil refinery process, the oil has to be collected, and when it's collected, it's usually done through deep ocean drilling, is where um, the oil spills occur. And oil spills happen when the oil drill breaks or leaks, and oil leaks into the ocean. This is really detrimental to the fish and all of the other wildlife that live in the ocean. And it's detrimental to us too because some humans eat fish, and when the fish is covered with oil, it's really not edible at all. Um, the oil can pollute the waterways and can contaminate our water supply and limit the amount of fresh water that we're able to have that's clean. And plastic on the surface floating in the ocean that is just sitting there holds a lot of heat, and it traps it within the plastic and under the water. And this is really bad because it contributes to mass coral bleaching and temperature rises in the ocean. And when the coral in the ocean gets bleached, it no longer is alive. So therefore, the ecosystem for the fish and the reef animals gets destroyed. It's like someone coming in and burning down your house, and then you'll have nowhere to live. So that's how the fish feel, honestly, when the coral gets bleached. It's pretty bad. So plastic pollution is terrible. Um, so most of the plastic enters the waterways, um, such as rivers and streams, through storm drains, beach pollution, and offshore dumping. So the storm drains are the grates on the side of the road where the water drains during a big storm. And a lot of times plastic is small enough to make its way into these drains, and there's really no filter system for these drains. It just sends the water straight to the stream or the river, and the plastic ends up there, and then the rivers drain into the ocean, so then the plastic ends up in the ocean. Beach pollution is when people just leave trash on the beach and don't pick it up. It gets washed out to sea, and not in America, but in a lot of foreign countries such as China and Taiwan, there's a lot of offshore dumping, like a lot, because they have a lot of people, a lot of plastic, and they just have nothing to do with it because they're already recycling so much plastic, and there's not a lot of people who are using recycled plastic to make products. So the plastic's just piling up, and the best way for them to get rid of it is dumping it in the ocean because the ocean's big. It's a lot of room. So plastic, once it's in the ocean, the current and the waves slowly deteriorated over time through erosion, and it becomes smaller pieces of plastic. We call these pieces of plastic microplastics, and a lot of these microplastics are microscopic. So a lot of the fish in the ocean don't even know they're consuming them when they do consume them because they're either breathing them in through their gills and through their mouth when they eat, or they're being consumed just by the fish opening its mouth and the water just the plastic just trickles in. Bioaccumulation is a serious detrimental effect to humans and the fish as well. Um, it's when the toxicity of any substance is amplified throughout a food chain. So if the plankton eat the microplastic, and then the fish eat the plankton, and then we eat the fish, we experience the greatest effects of plastic toxicity due to bioaccumulation because we're the last in the food chain. So, lastly, recycling is not very efficient, and there is not a lot of it going on. Only about 5% of all of the plastic in the world is recycled, and about 1% of the single-use plastic, such as forks, uh, you know, plastic bags, stuff like that you only use once, is recycled. So that's a very minimal amount. Countries such as China are placing bans on imported recycled plastic. So China's got so much recycled plastic that they're now no longer accepting any imported recycled plastic to their country because they have so much of it that they don't need anymore. So the demand for recycled plastic is relatively low due to the minimal amount of enterprises that are actually making stuff out of recycled plastic. There's just not a lot of people making items out of recycled plastic. It's just not happening. And there's a big market gap there. There's a lot of recycled plastic. There's plenty of resources, but just no one to make stuff out of the recycled plastic. So this is a huge problem as well. And lastly, the supply of recycled plastic is so big that the recycling companies have nowhere to put it. There's just so much recycled plastic, even though only about 5% of it's actually being used. That just goes to show you how often, and how much plastic we use. Um, so the abundant amount of single-use plastic is just absolutely absurd. There's just so much of it, and none of it's getting recycled. And that's the social problem of plastic pollution.